tonight. A doctor says a Saskatoon man was severely psychotic when he killed his partner. Cabin owners fear the worst as fires burn in northern Saskatchewan. And meet the 87-year-old university grad who hopes to revitalize the Cree language.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, May 26th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. A Saskatoon murder trial heard Monday from a doctor who assessed an accused killer. Thomas Hamp is charged with murdering his partner, Emily Sanch. The defense says Hamp is not responsible for what happened 3 years ago. Dan Zakreski has our top story.
Thomas Hamp is not denying that he fatally stabbed his girlfriend, Emily Sanch, in their Saskatoon apartment. What's at issue here at his trial is whether he knew what he was doing was wrong. The defense psychiatrist weighed in on Monday. Shabraham Laraspi interviewed Thomas Hamp for 5 hours. He went through his 25-page assessment. Dr. Laraspi concluded Hamp was acutely and severely psychotic when he killed Sanch. He said Hamp's mental health was impaired to the point that he didn't know his actions were wrong. Hamp tried to get help in the 3 months before killing Sanch. He had been to the emergency room twice, had a phone call with a psychiatrist, and had seen his family doctor and a counselor. Hamp was supposed to go to the hospital the morning he killed Sanch. Sanch had prepared a detailed timeline of Hamp's deteriorating mental health. She was going to take it with him to the hospital that morning. Dr. Laraspi described the timeline as an incredibly important document because of its detail. The assessment heard in court also touched on Hamp's severe obsessive-compulsive disorder and his cannabis use. The doctor said both likely had an influence on the man's mental disorder, but he couldn't say precisely how. The Crown prosecutor will be examining Dr. Laraspi on his report, but will not be calling their own expert. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Residents of East Trout Lake continue to brace for what could be a devastating loss to their community. The resort area, about 165 kilometers northeast of Prince Albert, was evacuated last week due to forest fires. The area is primarily being affected by the Shoe Fire, which is now up to 30,000 hectares in size and has been burning for nearly 3 weeks. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency says the fire took a significant run on Sunday. One man who CBC spoke with owns a cabin in the area that's been in his family for 3 generations, and he's concerned it may go up in flames.
It's never going to look the same. I've come to terms with that. I've come to terms with some of our, the small boats we have at some of the little lakes that we fished. I've come to terms with, they're likely gone. Everything like that. It's just, praying that the cabin's still there and all the stuff that goes along with it.
Other communities under an evacuation order in that area include Little Bear Lake, Lower Fishing Lake, and Pipperel Lake. Meanwhile, Prince Albert RCMP say Highway 3 south of Prince Albert is now closed in both directions due to wildfire smoke. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency is holding a news conference Tuesday to update the provincial fire situation. Métis citizens in Saskatchewan voted to return some familiar faces to their government's leadership team this past weekend, and they also chose a few new faces to lead the Métis Nation Saskatchewan. Jeremy Warren has the latest.
Saturday's election saw Glenn McCallum return as president, but results in 3 tight races, including the vice president, are waiting on recounts. McCallum heads into his 3rd straight term with a larger share of the vote than his last election.
And I think it speaks to voters' desire to keep seeing that progress and that movement forward that's been built over time, and speaking specifically in regards to the treaty and that building that relationship with the federal government.
Close to 28,000 Métis citizens were eligible to vote, more than ever before. 2 executive positions are heading for recounts. Incumbent Vice President Michelle Leclerc leads her race by 82 votes, and the candidates in one of 12 regional director positions are separated by just 2 votes.
This is a good thing because it's very indicative of the how meticulous this election has been. We have a couple different recounts, and I think this speaks to actually the efficiency and the form of our electoral process.
The 4 executives and 12 regional directors make up the Provincial Métis Council. The MNS is the recognized government of Métis citizens in this province. A few new faces are joining the government. That includes new Executive Secretary Marlene Hansen and several regional directors.
It's very exciting to be able to see these new faces also come to this government when there's a rising confidence in what's being done, but also this new energy and a new way of thinking about leadership is also really exciting.
As for what's ahead for the new MNS government, one major task is wrapping up negotiations with Ottawa for a landmark self-government treaty. MNS government officials will be formally sworn in at Batoche the 3rd week of June. Jeremy Warren, CBC News, Saskatoon.
King Charles and Queen Camilla have arrived in Canada, touching down in Ottawa to kick off a historic visit. Governor General Mary Simon and Prime Minister Mark Carney were there to receive the royal couple. On Tuesday, Charles will deliver the speech from the throne in the Senate to launch the 45th Parliament. The event serves as the anchor for Charles's first trip to the country as king. The visit aims to underscore Canadian sovereignty amid tensions with U.S. President Donald Trump. And ahead of the throne speech, Quebec Liberal MP Francis Scarpaleggia has been elected as the new Speaker of the House of Commons.
I would remind members that we are at the beginning of a mandate in the selfish hope that you will afford me a little grace period. Once again, thank you for your confidence. I have few words because, well, we all have things we want to accomplish, and we've been away. Thank you, colleagues.
The 67-year-old was first elected to Parliament in 2004 and represents the Quebec riding of Lac-Saint-Louis. MPs voted by secret ballot following a dramatic race that saw the only 2 Conservative candidates drop out of the running at the last minute. The union representing Canada Post workers says it expects contract talks to resume in the next few days. Canada Post tells CBC News that it's reviewing the union's response to its latest offer. That offer includes a pay hike and a plan to hire part-timers to work weekends. Weekend work is a key issue. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers says it presented its response to the Canada Post contract offer in a meeting Sunday and expects Canada Post will take a few days to go over it. The union's ban on overtime will remain in place, and Canada Post warns that job action could lead to delays in mail service. The provincial NDP says the Saskatchewan government has outsourced parking services to the United States. At a news conference Monday, the party says the government's deal with Platinum Parking and Park Mobile goes against Canadian interests and flies in the face of the Sask Party's promise to prioritize local procurement.
We should be trying to develop something local, especially given it's one of Saskatchewan's kind of strengths as of late. But certainly we should be moving away from reliance on these American companies.
But the government says the companies it's contracted are not American. In a statement, the Ministry of Health says Platinum Parking is a Canadian company, while Park Mobile is owned by a company based in Sweden. The University of Regina is flipping the switch on a cleaner energy future with the launch of Saskatchewan's first microgrid living lab. The lab will give students and local researchers hands-on experience with the energy systems of tomorrow. The microgrid lab uses a self-contained model, which means it generates, stores, and distributes its own electricity using renewable sources such as solar panels, wind and hydro. And unlike traditional power grids, this one works independently or alongside the main power grid. As the first of its kind in the province, researchers say it offers a glimpse into how communities in the province and beyond could be powered in the future.
Northern Saskatchewan, where supplying electricity to these locations can be expensive and hard and sometimes impossible. Also, it can be used in a campus like this. University of Regina campus can use a microgrid, other campuses as well. Homes also can use a microgrid.
The microgrid can supply up to 10 kilowatts to any system. The U of R says it's letting small businesses with interest in using self-contained energy systems use the microgrid as well. Well, it was a beautiful Saturday for the final day of the Cathedral Village Arts Festival in Regina. Lots of people either taking in some live music or strolling the vendor tents along 13th Avenue. And that gorgeous weather has continued into the start of our work week as well, albeit with some pretty gusty winds at times. Helena Mahalik has a look at how long this is going to last in her forecast after the break. A BC man is going public in a bid to restore his credit rating. His score was suddenly reset, making it difficult to get a credit card or a loan. Rosa Marcatelli explains the little-known rule that allowed it to happen.
David Tregear says getting credit was never a problem until the rejections piled up. A car loan, credit cards, and more, all denied. He checked his Equifax account, shocked to see his credit score was reset to 0.
Well, I was just stunned. I was like, what do you mean I don't have a credit? Like, are you kidding me?
Credit scores help lenders decide if you're trustworthy with credit. Higher score, better access. Tregear complained to Equifax nothing worked. A big problem, he says, because many lenders rely on that credit bureau.
I've always had to call in and with no success.
He says Equifax wouldn't give him a clear answer until Go Public got involved. Only then did the credit bureau point to its little-known rule that says if an account is inactive, the consumer may be labeled unscorable, and that person's credit score dropped to 0. Tregear says it's true. He stopped using credit to avoid getting into debt, never thinking he'd be punished for it. Equifax now tells him the cutoff is 2 years, but won't say if that applies to everyone. Turns out there are no rules on how bureaus should manage credit scores, allowing them to do what they want.
It's been crazy.
He turned to these consumer protection agencies for help, but didn't get any.
Everybody was just referring me back to somebody else.
TransUnion, Canada's other major credit bureau, says it doesn't reset scores. A consumer advocate wants Ottawa to set clear national standards rather than leaving oversight to provinces with a patchwork of regulations.
It tells me that there's a lack of common sense rules in place governing these two very important credit bureaus.
Equifax wouldn't talk specifics, instead sending a general statement, partly saying it prides itself on being a trusted steward of personal data. After hearing from Go Public, 2 provincial consumer protection agencies reached out to Tregear. One admitted it shouldn't have turned him away. But with Equifax's policy still in place, Tregear fears nothing will change. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
An Ontario judge has approved a settlement in a class action lawsuit. It accused Loblaw and its parent company of taking part in a bread price fixing scheme. The settlement is worth $500 million, $404 million of which will be paid out by Loblaw and George Weston Limited. The remaining $96 million will be allocated through a gift card program Loblaw introduced in 2017. Those eligible need to have purchased packaged bread between January 2001 and December of 2021. And weather specialist Helena Mahalik joins us now. Helena, I know we were talking about those fires a little bit earlier in the show, and that seems to be having an impact on our weather as well.
Yes, definitely, Ethan. It's really impacting those in the north. We're seeing temperatures that are really high, as well as really extreme winds, which has caused some air quality statements to be in effect. Let's take a look at where those are in the north. It's mainly situated around La Ronge, Pelican Narrows, and Wollaston Lake areas. People who live in these areas are advised to stay indoors and monitor for any health symptoms. We are seeing that the smoke is going to continue to spread into Tuesday, and mainly it's going to spread into central Saskatchewan, a little bit into Prince Albert possibly. The winds are shifting this smoke a little bit to the southern part of the province there. And with all this smoke, people are advised to just watch out and make sure that if you are going anywhere or wanting to have a fire, even in your own place, to watch out and look for your municipality's fire bans, because many are in effect across the province, as it is pretty extreme throughout most of the province there. We are seeing winds up to 40 kilometers an hour or even 50 in some areas Monday night, which doesn't help with those fires. And then as we get into overnight Tuesday, we are continuing to see 50 kilometers an hour winds, especially in southwestern parts of the province. And Tuesday afternoon, the north will still experience up to 30 kilometers an hour winds. The rest of the week, those winds are set to die down, the north continuing to feel a little bit of a breeze as we get into Wednesday. We are seeing a very clear night throughout the province Monday night. As we get into Tuesday, there is a possibility of some scattered showers across central Saskatchewan and the northern grain belt up there. Hopefully the north gets some of that rainfall to ease some of those fires, but the rest of the week still continues to look very clear. We're seeing, again, some possibilities of rain, but mostly very clear skies as we get into Wednesday, and this will continue for Thursday as temperatures continue rising across the province. Monday, we're seeing temperatures very hot for this time of year at the 25-degree mark in south and central, and closer to 30 degrees or even above that in the far northern parts of the province. And that's because we are seeing a high-pressure system across the province, so temperatures are continue to rise throughout the week to the mid-20s to even the 30-degree mark as we get closer to the rest of the work week. So definitely, Ethan, you'll want to get some sunscreen because the UV rays will be quite high during this week.
Yeah, and we will hope for some showers to douse those fires. Helena, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ethan.
Well, a Saskatchewan woman is proof that you're never too old to achieve your goals. The 87-year-old is the oldest graduate in the history of the Indian Teacher Education Program at the U of S, and she's hoping to use her degree to revitalize the Cree language.
Louise Fraser, Mr. Wassis Nehewak.
When I was a child, I was fluent in the Cree language because I heard it all the time at home from my family. But when I went to residential school, I was not able to use my language anymore. Residential school really changed me. I didn't want to be involved with my culture anymore and the language at that time. I knew as a young person, a teenager, that I would have to get some education and some training because there was nothing like that on the reserve. I tried many ways to try and get it back. It just was it was in my head, but I couldn't get the words out. And then I heard about how our languages, not many people are speaking the language anymore. Parents aren't speaking the language to their children. And then I thought going back to school would be a way of getting it back. I did take some Indigenous languages classes a while ago, about 10 years ago. I couldn't teach the language because I didn't have a certificate. I decided, well, maybe I'll go back to school and so I can get a teaching certificate so that I could teach a language. And that was my goal all along. I felt out of place with all the young students around me, but I just keep thinking about my goal, and that kept me in my program.
Politicians and dignitaries gathered at Saskatoon City Hall Monday for the raising of the Reconciliation Flag. It's an annual event put on by Reconciliation Saskatoon. The flag is raised in the lead up to Indigenous History Month, which runs through the month of June, and National Indigenous Peoples Day, which is on June 21st. Stay with us. We have more news and a final look at the forecast when we come back. Well, after 2 weeks of facing themselves, the Saskatchewan Roughriders were finally able to face a team in another jersey. They made the short trip Saturday to face the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in preseason action. Neither team was able to put the ball in the end zone, though, in a low-scoring 15-9 Bombers win. Defense led the way for both teams, especially the Riders. One of the players that stood out was third-year safety Jackson Ford. The former Regina Ram picked up 4 tackles, and after an injury-ravaged 2024 that made him miss last year's training camp, he's happy he's back and healthy.
It was great being healthy, getting a full camp, being able to learn the defense and be out there and actually play. Last year definitely helped me learn the defense from a different perspective. You know, I wasn't taking too many reps, so I was taking a lot of mental reps, and just asking and talking to the guys about it too definitely helped. Just a different perspective.
Ford is the grandson of former Rider defensive back, punter, and general manager Al Ford. And in his honor, Jackson has switched to his grandpa's former number, which is 21. The Riders next hit the field Friday night as they host Winnipeg in their final preseason game. And Helena is back now with one last look at our forecast.
Ethan, things are going to stay really hot all throughout the week. Let's take a look at what temperatures are going to be like in Regina. A very sunny week, and as we get into each and every day, temperatures just rising bit by bit every single day. As we get into the end of the work week, there is a chance of some rain, and a very clear and hot weekend. Temperatures could get to the 30-degree range, and then as we get into next work week, there's another possibility of some rain, but we're not seeing too much of a breeze this week. And as we get into our overnight lows, temperatures much above seasonal for this time of year. We're seeing overnight lows hovering in the mid to high teens range. Saskatoon is also in for a sunny week. Again, a few days of 30-degree weather as we get into the rest of this work week. There could be a chance of some rain Friday and Monday, and again, a very hot weekend in store. We may see a little bit of a breeze over the weekend, and again, overnight lows very hot for this time of year. We're even seeing some days that are closer to 20 degrees, Ethan, for our overnight lows, so things are feeling quite warm into the night.
Yeah, definitely feeling more like summer. Helena, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ethan.
And that is it for us. For more news anytime, of course, you can always head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. And of course, you can also download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching.